Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask John Hood and Chris Fitzsimon, as a result of all the angst surrounding the separation of children from their parents, Governor Cooper recalled, as did several other governors, members of the North Carolina National Guard from the border. Now, some say this was politically symbolic, more than had any real value. What do you say? Chris?
Well, I think it was politically symbolic, and it was also Republican Governor Hogan from Maryland. I think Republican Governor Kasich from Ohio. A lot of other Democratic governors. It was I think both symbolic and a real expression of frustration and disgust with the way this policy was being implemented by the Trump administration. So good for Governor Cooper. Good for the Republican governors who did it.
John?
It was clearly symbolic. It has no practical significance. There aren't enough people involved to have made any difference in border
security. It was just
security.
3 members.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was symbolic, but Chris is correct. Sometimes political conversations are about symbolism. In this case, the problem that exists here is that there really is a conflict. The alternative to the process we've been following, and frankly that was followed during the Obama years, there's a reason why there is a precedent, a legal precedent that has to do with separating children from their parents and holding children for a limited amount of time. That's because the Obama administration was doing, and frankly the Bush administration, all the previous administrations have been doing versions of when someone doesn't come through the normal channels, the proper channels to seek asylum, and instead they just try to cross the border. That is at least a misdemeanor violation, depending on how many times they've done it. And when you have someone facing criminal prosecution, you can't put children in jail. They're not criminals. So they're just like any other situation where a parent is arrested for anything. You don't bring the kid to the jail, you put the kid in the foster system or whatever. So that's obviously not a tenable solution to the border problem.
The optics of that are terrible.
I understand the optics. What I'm getting at is the alternative can't be, well, then we won't arrest anybody. Well, so what they've got to do is, as has been proposed, is have some holding opportunities, military bases, something, because they're not just going to say, everybody come in the country and live for several years and then we'll adjudicate your case.
What's behind this is the Trump administration's, quote, zero tolerance policy, which basically means they don't want to give asylum to hardly anybody. They tried to revoke the exemption for women fleeing domestic violence and rape from gangs, literally, at the border, would no longer be able to seek asylum, or would no longer be able to, we would take care of them and figure out what to do about them. That's as much about the optics and symbolism as everything else, that the presumption is nobody else is coming in here, no matter what you're facing, no matter what you've endured, no matter if you brought kids with you or not, nothing matters, that's it. Well, and I think that's the fundamental disagreement with the Trump administration, and frankly, not just me or progressive or liberals or whatever, with the vast majority of the United States, the vast majority of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, which is why this was such a outcry.
Well, what confounds me is that we used to have an immigration system in this country that was based on numbers and quotas. What was it, in the 60s it was done away with, or it expired or something like that? And the Congress hasn't been able to come up with any kind of valid immigration policy since then. Why?
Congress is divided, the Republican Party is divided, the Democratic Party is divided on exactly what the immigration policy should be. I do not think that President Trump or President Obama or anybody else, any president, should be making any of these policy decisions. They don't have that real authority. The authority should be the Congress to determine what the standard should be. What does asylum mean? Does it mean fleeing criminals? Not usually. That didn't used to mean what asylum is. Political or religious persecution, not I'm afraid that somebody will commit a crime against me. That might be a good reason to let somebody into the country, but it's not political asylum.
But haven't the presidents gotten involved in all of this because the Congress won't act?
Well, they have, and it's also worth pointing out, you can blame whoever you want, but the Democrats and President Bush had an agreement on relatively comprehensive immigration reform. The hardliners in the Republican Party said no, so we shelved it. Now it's probably worth remembering the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So to sit there, I'm not a fan of some of the things the Democrats do, but the Republicans are running the federal government. That's who's in charge. That's who, when you are running the federal government and you're in charge of things and things go wrong, that's who people look to fix it. And that's why this is their problem.
Well, they by gum aren't running this topic. And we thank you for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.